Hello, everyone. Welcome to season 2, episode 9 of my LinkedIn live series. I'm joined today by Professor Pete Alexander. If you look at the titles underneath, he wears so many different hats. He's an entrepreneur, he's an educator, he's a professor, he's a best-selling author, he's a professional speaker, and he has a lot of experience about our topic today about stress relief. So, Pete, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Stephen. Thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah, glad to have you here, and I can imagine how much stress you've gone through just with so many things you have, right? As an entrepreneur, starting a new business, writing a book from scratch, being an educator, you have to teach college students and come up with a lesson plan. So I'm excited to talk more about our topic today. Do you want to share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. In addition to all those things you said, I'm also a grateful parent of 3 kids, which, anybody who's a parent can understand the stresses involved with that. And I'm just grateful that I was able to figure out how to handle stress better, to be able to stay healthy. That was a critical thing for me. That was an eye opener for somebody that was a very hard driver, like I was throughout my career.
Yeah, absolutely. And stress is it's something that everyone deals with, right? No matter what
Right.
profession you're in, no matter what your age is,
Yep.
no matter what you do. And I think for most of us, we don't realize we are stressed, or we don't realize we're getting to that point of getting stressed until it's too late, right? Then we get burned
Yeah.
out. We feel a bunch of anxiety or depression or a bunch of
Yeah.
negative things. So let's talk about our first topic here. How do you know that? How do we know that we're stressed?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And one thing that's probably really helpful for the listeners to understand, there's actually we're not trying to get rid of all stress, because not all stress is bad. There's actually good stress and bad stress. So if you have good stress, which is called eustress, EUSTRESS, that's if we are doing something that we love and we've got, we need to get something done. That's good stress to make sure we get it on the timing done. But you mentioned it really head on. Anxiety, that is one of the 2 flavors of bad stress, or distress, a lot of people like to call it. Anxiety about something in the future. The other one is rumination about something in the past. Like, let's say that we're guilty about either something we did or we didn't do. So if we can focus on trying to get rid of either one of those, we will hit a home run. And what happens when we either ruminate about something in the past or we have anxiety about something coming up in the future, we tend to manifest that stress either mentally or physically or both. And mentally, the early signs that we're stressed might be something like having a lack of concentration. Instead of being able to focus, maybe it's mood swings and you're going from happy to sad or angry at a moment's notice. Maybe having panic attacks that you never had before, or it could be prescription drug or alcohol addiction. Those are all signs that we are mentally stressed. Physically, it might be something like even, if you think about pre-COVID, but now that we're getting post COVID, having frequent colds. It used to be that, at least for someone like myself, I might have one cold a winter season. And if you start getting colds every month, that's an indicator that you're probably physically stressed. Back and shoulder stiffness is one of the most common ones. And the reason is, for those of us who often sit at desks, we hunch over a lot when we're stressed. And so that puts a lot more pressure on our neck and our shoulders. Having sleep that's not consistent, either excessive sleep and still not feeling rested, or not enough sleep because you've got insomnia. That's a classic sign. Digestive disorders, where no amount of Pepto-Bismol will take care of what's going on. Headaches, instead of occasionally reaching for the Excedrin bottle, you're reaching for the Excedrin bottle every day. I mean, that's a classic sign. And weight fluctuations, either gaining or losing weight rapidly, is a clear sign. In fact, prior to my diagnosis with stress-induced diabetes, I lost 30 pounds in 30 days. I was in my mid 40s. And at first, when this weight was coming off, Stephen, I was thinking, oh my God, this is fantastic. I wasn't doing any special exercise. I was doing my normal stuff. I certainly wasn't dieting. And the weight was coming off. And I'm thinking, this is awesome. I haven't lost weight since my 20s. And then after that 30th pound came off, I went, I better have this checked out. And sure enough, the blood work came back and said, guess what? You have stress-induced diabetes at middle age. So, because nobody in my family has diabetes. And I keep myself in good shape physically. So, and basically what happens in our body if we don't listen to our body with some of those early signs that I mentioned, it's kind of like, that old saying that the weakest link in the chain is what's going to break. So if we continuously stress ourselves out, whatever that weakest link in our body is going to be what breaks. And apparently mine was my pancreas. And what happens with these chronic diseases like diabetes, heart disease, cancer, for example, is that when we're stressed and we continuously drop adrenaline and cortisol into our bodies, because our bodies are designed just like they were back in the Stone Age for that fight or flight syndrome, when we're dealing with a saber-toothed tiger or a T-Rex, right? But nowadays it's so mentally stressing where we're worrying about that past, that future. And so what ends up happening is our bodies have to keep escalating up the issues. If we don't listen to our bodies early on, it got to keep on sending signals. And the stress that we keep on dumping into our bodies creates this cellular inflammation that causes chronic disease. And so whatever that chronic disease is going to target in your body, that's going to be your weakest link of your body's chain. And so you have to be really careful about it.
Wow, that was very insightful. So at first you're talking about there's good stress and bad stress. Hosting a LinkedIn Live is stressful, but I
Yes,
enjoy
it is.
doing it, right? So I'm not gonna, start having a panic attack before a LinkedIn Live. I, make sure I have my things organized, make sure I have my notes ready, have our speaking topics ready. So yeah, I agree with you. There is some good stress, and then with bad stress, you sort of put it into two different groups. Basically, it's anxiety about the future, and then worrying about the past. And we'll talk a little bit more about how to deal with techniques to deal with it, but kind of my thoughts up front is if it's in the future, if there's nothing you can do about it, then there's really no reason to stress about it. For example, I'm in the we just bought a home and right now we're waiting for an appraisal. It should have came in today. And I mean, what can I do? I've been thinking about it all week, but it's supposed to come in on Friday. It's almost end of Friday. We haven't gotten it yet. So what can I do? I can only email them asking what the status is.
Right.
And then with things in the past, this topic was perfect. I just woke up an hour early for some reason today, and I was just thinking about my past experience where in one of my jobs where I was basically replaced and I had to go train my replacement. And for some reason, that was like 3 years ago, 3 years ago. But just suddenly went in my head, and I just couldn't go back to bed. And I was just like, okay, just playing through all the scenarios in my head, what I should have done, and things like that. But once I got through that, I was able to sleep again. So, and you also talk about all the impacts stress has on your body. So, I think it's really important just to not just push through things or, I'm strong mentally or physically. If you see some signs, definitely understand where the stress is coming from. Either get rid of that stress or start taking care of your body anymore. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think you've summarized it very, very well. The thing is that it doesn't take a lot of time to be able to take care of yourself. That's one of the things that's a big misnomer with a lot of people that I talk with. And they think that, I got to spend a whole bunch of time de-stressing. And it really doesn't require that. It can actually be done in just a couple minutes a day. So there really isn't any excuse not to take care of yourself. And the bottom line is that if you don't take care of yourself and you break down, let's say, you get really, really sick. I mean, think about, for example, with you, the last time you had a really bad flu, did you feel like doing anything other than lying in bed? Probably not. And when you're in that condition, you're no good to your job. You're no good to your business. You're no good to the people who are important to you in your life. You don't have any energy for it. So you don't want to be somebody who ends up sick in bed because you worked yourself to death or stressed yourself out without taking care of yourself, even for a few minutes a day. It's just not worth it.
Absolutely. And I share this on LinkedIn through my engagement on other people's posts. You got to take care of your body, take care of your mind before you
Mm-hmm.
take care of anything else. Because
Absolutely.
I mean, once you're bedridden, you're sick, you can't do anything. How are you supposed to help other people, right? Because you got to take care of yourself first.
Well, yeah,
Um,
it's that classic. We've all been on an airplane and heard the safety message, right? And so, put the mask on yourself first before putting the mask on someone else.
Absolutely. Before we go into our next topic, I want to highlight a comment here. This is from June.
June,
So maybe
one of my buddies.
Oh, great! So thank you for joining, June. I think this is the first time you joined my live stream. So thanks for commenting and joining here. So now we talked about all the different effects of stress, right? And now it's we know stress is a bad thing. So what are some techniques that you want to share to help reduce stress?
Sure. As I mentioned earlier, it only takes a couple of minutes a day, and it doesn't require any special tools. So one of my favorite ones is a visualization exercise. And for those of that might be listening live, the only thing I got to put the caveat on any of these techniques is don't be driving while you're doing these. But so pull over. But the first one, this visualization exercise, what I'd like you to do, and go ahead and I'll walk you through this, Stephen, so you can tell me what
Great.
you think. So go ahead and close your eyes and take a deep breath in. And I want you to go in your mind to a place you like to relax. Maybe it's the beach, maybe it's a park, maybe a lake, maybe it's your backyard. Maybe it's a spa. Wherever it is that you like to go there now in your mind and take in all of your senses. So, what do you feel? Do you feel the sun on your face? Maybe the sand or the grass under your feet? What do you smell? Do you smell the fresh air? Maybe the lotion from the spa? And what do you hear? Do you hear the wind blowing through the trees? Maybe the water splashing on shore? And what do you see? Do you see the blue sky? Maybe the green of the trees or the grass? Whatever it is, take it all in and then take another deep breath in. And open your eyes. How was
That was
that?
helpful.
Yeah, it's a grounding exercise, and it takes literally a minute, and we can do that pretty much anywhere, sitting at our desks, sitting in our car, let's say before we have to walk into a sales call or a meeting, whatever it happens to be. It can be done pretty much anywhere. In fact, I know people who will do some of this exercise where, let's say, they only have a cubicle and they don't have the privacy to be able to just do this without somebody bothering them. And so I know people who actually have gone to the bathroom in the stall and done it. Just takes imagination.
Yeah, I really really like that. For me, when I deal with stress, I tell people that I do this as well. I try to remove myself from the situation. So if
Mhm.
work is stressing me out, like this specific project I'm working on or this meeting, I go
Yes.
walk somewhere else. I go walk outside, just
Mhm.
physically remove myself from the situation. But what you just did with the breathing technique, the visualization, that's something I'm going to definitely add as well. Because after I physically remove myself from that place that's giving me stress, imagining myself in a place that I really, really want to be, that's really, 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 really relaxing, definitely helps as well.
And if you do that, if you combine those, it's actually a form of walking meditation. And so walking meditation is where you're at, you go outside, you are not paying attention to your phone. It's electronics, electronics free. It's basically where you're going out, taking that walk, and you're being present with your surroundings. And you really take a note of what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're feeling. And that is true walking meditation. And it only takes a few minutes. It's a great exercise. And it's been one of the ones that I always recommend, to be able to get, as you say, avoid the scene of the crime, wherever whatever is stressing you out. If you take even a walk, if you're working downtown, just a walk around the block will make a difference. And rain or shine, it will make a difference, as long as you're not sitting there and saying, okay, I'm just going to go and walk while I'm looking at my phone. That's not the intent. The intent is to get yourself a bit more grounded.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Right? Don't just leave the room and walk around. Actually, be conscious. I think that's key. Be conscious of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
In our visualization exercise that you just shared, you told me to. What am I smelling? What am I feeling? What am I seeing? What am I hearing? So it's definitely utilizing all five of your senses to help understand what's going on, and that will help reduce the stress as well.
Yes, absolutely. There's another one that's a fairly quick one as well, because since we talked about walking meditation, that I think would be helpful for your listeners as well. And it's called Hakalau. And Hakalau is a light meditation that actually originates from the Hawaiian culture. And what its intent is, let's say that we have to have a difficult conversation with someone, or maybe we have to give a presentation and we're not comfortable speaking in front of an audience. So Huckle Out gives us this opportunity to ground ourselves even further. And rather than using visualization, what you do is whether you're sitting or standing, you find a stationary spot on the wall. So go ahead and do that with me, where you look at a stationary spot. And what I want you to do is focus all of your attention on that spot. And as you stare at this spot, I want you to let your mind go loose and focus all of your attention on that spot. And after a few seconds, you'll notice that your vision starts to spread out and you see more in the peripheral than you do in the central part of your vision. And what I want you to do is pay attention to the peripheral. In fact, pay more attention to the peripheral than the central part of your vision. And stay in this state for another 5-10 seconds. And now I want you to close your eyes and open your eyes back up, come back into the room, and you'll notice that you're more grounded and better aware of your surroundings. And chances are your stress level has gone down, your blood pressure has gone down, and you're better equipped to take on that perceived stressful situation that is about to happen.
I really like that as well. Other than putting me into timeout for a second there, but no, I'm kidding. That was definitely helpful, right? As you
Yeah.
said, staring at a spot, but then you start your vision starts getting wider and wider, right? And then after I
Mm-hmm.
came back and looked at the screen, it's like, okay, I'm getting a different type of aura, or I don't know how to describe it, but it's a slightly different type of feeling than 5 minutes before when I was looking at the screen.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. It's just a very simple one, because it's similar to being present that we talked about earlier. As we take in our surroundings and we're much more attuned to our surroundings, we tend to ground ourselves because we're taking in our environment.
Absolutely. We got some comments that came in here. First of all, we got Phil saying happy weekend. Happy weekend to you as well. Ankit was a guest a couple weeks ago, so happy Friday to you, Ankit. And then we got June again saying he's grateful for following the professor, Professor Pete, on LinkedIn. My stress went way down the past 2 years from his tips and tricks. knowing someone like Professor will make you more aware of stress to minimize it. So we just walked through 2 techniques. I bet Pete has a lot more, and he'll share a little bit more where we can get resources. But it's been very helpful so far. And then
June, thank you for those kind words.
and Latasha said, I learned the hard way after 13 months of the most stressful job in my life. I had a abandoned shift
Mhm,
and left my director job for no job 9 months ago. Been living my
mhm.
best life in my Black Girl sabbatical healing and wellness journey. So kudos to you. You just, sometimes that job, that work, whatever you do it's not worth it. It's not worth your health. It's not worth your mental health. You just got to remove yourself. I'm really glad to hear that your sabbatical is just going absolutely amazing.
Latasha, it happened to me as well. You basically wrote my resume on burning out as well, because I had to leave a very well-paying director's job as well because my health wasn't worth the stress.
Great. And then something that you share on your LinkedIn profile about stress relief, you talk about the Leiden stress management model. Do you want to talk a
Mhm.
little bit more about that?
Yeah, the Lighten model is actually a 7-letter acronym for the 7 areas of our life that we tend to get most stressed from. So L is our livelihood or our career. And, the reality is we spend more time working than just about anything else. And for those of us that have workaholic tendencies, we may work more hours than we sleep. So you really have to make sure to take into account that if your job is all encompassing, it's going to you're going to be paying a price somehow. And so you have to be aware of that. And again, going back to what we said earlier about just a few minutes a day can help give you that balance. The I stands for imagination. It's your conscious mind. And our conscious mind is only 5% of our brain, but it's where our inner critic lies. And that inner critic, for all of us who have been in touch with our inner critic, that is something that really is a challenge. So we have to figure out ways to be able to keep that in check. The G stands for what I call the genius, our unconscious mind. Our unconscious mind is the other 95% of our brain. It's where our memories are stored, our habits are formed, our perception of the world lies. And it's actually where real change happens. If we can change our habits, we can have an impact on ourselves as well as with others who are open to it. H is for health, which is the reason why I talk about stress now, because without your health, nothing else matters. I burned out from a very stressful job, and lucky to be able to have survived it. T is for time, which is something we're always stressed for time, and you know, uh, unlike health, where hopefully we can get it back, time, once it's gone, can't get it back. And so it's really imperative that we take action today, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month. Don't procrastinate. Take action today, because even if you do one activity for 1 or 2 minutes a day, the compound benefits over time will be enormous. But you got to start today. The E is for your environment. And whether you're working at home, at work, you're in school, whatever it happens to be, you need to make sure that your environment is conducive to your stress relief efforts. So, if you're working on an important project, you need to have some quiet time, comfortable place to sit, understanding from those around you. That's critical. And the last one, N, is your network of relationships. The people in your life matter. And when we're stressed, we're less patient, less empathetic, probably not going to give them much attention. And the reality is, the people in our lives matter. So we shouldn't let stress get the best of us so that we can't have quality relationships, both with our friends, family, and coworkers.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that. Like you said, stress comes from a variety of different sources, from work, from our conscious mind, our unconscious mind, from our environment, from our people, from our network. But I think what you said, the biggest takeaway from what you said was you just got to start today, right? We went over 2 different stress relief techniques. It took less than 2 minutes each, right? We just did it
Mhm.
in this live stream. By doing that every single day, visualizing yourself in in your happy place, taking all the senses, and also doing the one I can't pronounce, the one from Hawaii, where
Hakalau.
Hakalau, yes. Just staring at a spot and starting drifting away. Those techniques, just doing that every single day. It only takes you doing both takes you less than 5 minutes, and we all have time. We all have 5 minutes a day just to relieve the stress. So that's my biggest takeaway from what you said.
Well, that's perfect. Yeah, and literally, it's we just have to find something that works for ourselves. That's why in the book I wrote, there's over 100 techniques. 95% of them take 5 minutes or less, because the reality is, what might work for me, Stephen, might not work for you, and vice versa. So it's all a matter of finding something that works for each individual, because we're all different. And so, like, for example, yoga doesn't work for me, but I know a lot of people that it does work for. And so, you just got to find something that works.
Yeah, and I really like your techniques here. I have the Peloton app, so I tried doing the meditation classes, and they're like 10 minutes long. I don't know, maybe I'm just don't have the patience or in a rush, and I sit through it. And I'm like, okay, it's great. And in like 5 minutes, I'm just like, okay, I'm bored, right? And so I really like your quick techniques, because I have the attention span to do it for 2 minutes. I really like the two techniques that you shared today.
Great, I'm glad.
All right. I want to highlight a comment here. Zane says he loves this topic. Zane was actually on my live stream earlier this year where we talked about stress relief, talk about mental health. So everything you talked about with stress relief definitely ties into mental health as well. And then June says, health is everything. Stress is so damaging. I'm 59. My next 20 years will be my best years. That's absolutely great. As long as I live with low stress level, I can do amazing things. So bring on that positive stress.
Absolutely, June. Yeah, and for those of you listening, I would strongly encourage you to follow June. He puts such wonderful, heartful posts that are an absolute pleasure to read. And each time I read them, my stress goes down even more. So I highly recommend following him.
Great. So as we wrap up our live stream here, I'm putting Pete's LinkedIn profile, linkedin.com/in/Pete Alexander. Follow his content, and as well go to his website, PeteAlexander.com. But I want to give you the floor here, Pete. How can you help others? What other things do you want to share, or what do you need help with?
Sure. So first of all, go into my website. I've got all those techniques available on my blog, and I post regularly there. So feel free to sign up with your email, and you'll get each new one that comes gets published. I highly recommend it for everybody to one technique that is a really good one that takes only about 5 to 10 minutes is to do your personal values work. And I have that's one of my blog posts that is extremely popular, because if you know what your personal values are, whether it's with your relationships, whether it's your work, etc., you can really, really be true to yourself by being able to do that. And then if anything comes up in terms of if you have a particular question or something, feel free to reach out to me. I do one-on-one coaching for people who really need to go in depth. I have some great techniques that really need some guidance on there, so I'm happy to help people with that as well. So just reach out to me. I'm happy to connect.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. So make sure to go to PeteAlexander.com. Check out his blog post for all his techniques about stress relief. And if you need some one-on-one coaching, like Pete said, go connect with him. Before we wrap up here, a few more comments. June learned everything from Professor, so he's your number one fan here. And then Latasha says she's 39, wants to live to 59 plus. So I think both June and Latasha, thank you for sharing your comments. You are all on the right path to being way less stressed and being happy and being basically who you want to be. So as we close here, we talked a lot about the impact that stress has on you, your health. It just compounds, it builds up and up. We went through two different techniques, two very short techniques on how to reduce your stress. And then Pete talked about the Leiden stress management model, about how there's a lot of sources of stress, but being able to take that time every single day to do those techniques to reduce the stress will help you out as well. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up here, Pete?
Sure, Stephen. I'd just like to close by, letting people remember that or realize that trading their health for their career is a very bad trade. Take care of your health. That is paramount.
Absolutely. Take care of yourself because you can't do anything else if you're in bad health, physical, mental, anything like that. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you so much, Pete, for joining as my guest here. I learned a lot about stress relief. I'm definitely going to use the 2 techniques that you shared today. And thank you to June, Latasha, and everyone else that commented as well, adding to the conversation. So, have a great weekend, everyone, and talk to you all next week.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.